What's up? Spider Paladin here. So I'm here with an interesting topic because it's one that has bothered me for the main story of this game, and I've heard people talk about it online as well, but I haven't seen a video online really discussing it, so I took matters into my own hands. So the topic is, did they make Peter weaker in the main story of Spider-Man 2? In my review of the game, I mentioned one of the things that took me out of the story was how weak they made Peter. I don't know if weak is the right word, but he seemed like he was in a lot more deadlier situations that he should be getting out of. I'll be drawing on some specific examples in the game and going into more detail with it to show that. And listen, I know Spider-Man is known to get his butt kicked and just get up and keep on fighting because that's who Spider-Man is. But these examples and things I'll be talking about are more so in how he even survived for 8 years without Miles or the symbiote. And just to get it out of the way, I love Miles, and I love the symbiote storyline. This isn't to bash on them and be like, oh, they wanted to make Miles look so strong, blah blah blah, because I don't think that's really the case or the point I'm trying to make. They will be factors in a video, sure, but like I said, they aren't negatives themselves. Like, I'm actually glad they showed how powerful Miles is because he is really powerful. I just don't like how Peter was handled in some situations throughout the story to the point where I feel like he was just nerfed. If this video comes off as me just complaining about an issue I had with the story like some random fanboy, it's because, I mean, that's what it is, but I'll try not to come off as some pretentious prick, acting like I know how Peter Spider-Man should exactly be. I just wanted to make a video about the topic, sue me. So, to start off the video, let's discuss how Peter was portrayed in combat with other villains in the original game. In the original game, he was shown to be doing excellently versus pretty much everyone by himself. Versus Kingpin, he beat him pretty convincingly. He 2v1 members in the Sinister Six and beat them without really breaking a sweat. He beat Doc Ock. He pretty much handled everyone on his own in that game. He only really got beaten down when the Sinister Six were all together, but I mean, that's fair. That's literally the Sinister Six, right? Well, that and Doc Ock too, but you get my point. My point here is the first game story made Peter seem a lot more powerful and experienced. Like, you feel that, okay, this Spider-Man has fought these guys before and has been doing his thing for 8 years. This is a cakewalk for him. Even against Martin Lee, the way they wrote him against Martin Lee showed that Lee was really no match for Peter in the end. Not by himself anyway. Peter was strong. I believed he was a hero for 8 years. I can see him being that amazing Spider-Man in that first game. Now, let's go to Spider-Man 2. Peter gets thrown around a lot and takes a lot of brutal hits in this game. Some are pretty hilarious, I can't lie. And this is all fine to an extent. Spider-Man is kind of known to get tossed around a lot, right? And he gets back up and keeps going because that's who Spider-Man is. That's all fine. My issue here is that sometimes it can be a little too excessive, and sometimes it gets to a point where I wonder, like I said, how he survived against some of these villains for this long without help, like Miles or the symbiote. Let's take the beginning boss fight with Sandman, for example. Now, Peter takes a lot of hits during this fight, like the lightning strikes or Sandman just hitting him through the building, whatever, that's okay. Take this part, for example, though, where the sand guys legit nearly suffocate Peter, almost killing him, until Miles shows up and saves him. Now, Miles isn't the issue here, not at all. My issue in this particular situation is that Peter would have just straight up died here without Miles. In a situation I feel he could have easily got himself out of. I mean, I don't know, I'm not Spider-Man, but just like his hand was just reaching for something here, could he have shot a web to pull himself out of this situation? Or let's think about how he got himself there in the first place. He jumps at Sandman to attack him. Did he not see Sandman raise his hand and then try to hit Spider-Man? All that happens in front of Spidey, and he should have clearly seen that. I know this is like nitpicking because, I mean, it is. But it just bothers me because I just get into details like this in a character because I think it's important. Peter would have died here straight up without Miles, like there's just no question. In a situation I feel Spidey 8 years into his career, actually 9 at this point, or 10 at this point in the universe, right? He shouldn't be in this situation. It just feels out of character. I could forgive stuff like the lightning strikes hitting him and whatever because that's believable. That's more like a Spider-Man thing, you know, getting hit and coming back up. It's just a character moment here where it bothers me, where he almost dies in a dumb situation like this, if you ask me. And listen, I'm all for making Miles look awesome and badass because Miles is a great character. It's just at the expense of making Peter look like he was about to die to some BS is what kind of bothers me here. He could have been saved by Jameson for all I care. It's just the fact that Spidey nearly died in some dumb situation that, like I said, bothers me. And on top of that, I honestly feel in regards to the symbiote the story was written to make Peter a little weaker for the symbiote. Let's talk about when he gets the symbiote. You know, how Kraven pretty much successfully killed Peter, but the symbiote saves Peter. This part just felt kind of off for me. It clearly was a moment for like, okay, yeah, they're making Peter look like he's about to die so he can get the symbiote. Anyone can see that from a mile away once Peter got stabbed. And that bothers me too. That felt way too much like a plot thing, right? Or is that just me? Just a dramatic way for Peter to get the symbiote suit, but I don't think Peter would go down that easily to someone with a knife. Sure, it's Kraven, but it all comes down to the experience thing again, right? It's just not believable for me, especially how I saw Peter handle himself in the first game. And this kind of leads into my next topic, his spider sense. Is it just me, or did his spider sense feel very inconsistent in this game? Sometimes I just felt like it didn't work. There's times I felt in this game where his sense didn't trigger until like the very last second, where there's no time for Peter to react, to the point where it felt less like a warning for him to get out of the way to, hey, you're about to take a hit and there's nothing you can do about it. But at other times, his sense tells him danger right when it looms around. This is kind of a big deal because you need to have a consistent spider sense. Take an example from the first game. His sense warns him about the bombs that are about to go off at City Hall a good amount of time before it actually happens. Now take this not as important moment of Peter swinging to the cathedral and this guy getting the drop on him. His spider sense goes off way too late. Or this moment when the lizard is about to attack him. His sense literally goes off right before he gets hit. His sense should have been warned him about these situations. Or like the Sandman fight with the hand I was talking about earlier. Even if somehow he didn't see that, wouldn't his spider sense kind of warn him about the giant hand that's about to smack him onto the ground? You see what I'm saying? Like, there's just inconsistencies there that translate to Peter being weaker or getting nerfed. It makes him weaker, like it keeps making me question how he, like I said, survived all this time without Miles' symbiote. Was it just extreme luck? Maybe. Overall though, I just felt like his spider sense was used more in a video game context, which, you know, makes sense because it is a video game, but it doesn't make sense overall as an ability with Peter. It just felt inconsistent to me. I didn't like that because it translates again to Peter taking more damage in hits that he shouldn't realistically be taking. And then you have small details too, like when Venom went to visit MJ and Peter goes over there and then Harry transforms into Venom and then attacks them. MJ rushes in front of Peter to take the hit, in which they both get knocked back to the kitchen, where Peter gets his fridge on top of him while MJ takes 19 inches of Venom the whole time. I have issues with this scene. For one, why didn't Peter react to Venom's attack? He's staring right at him and his reaction times are way faster than MJ's. He's a superhuman. Why did she take the hit for him while you just kind of stood there like an idiot? If she can see it coming, so can Peter. And he should be doing something since he is Spider-Man. It just kind of bothered me, like I don't believe that particular situation would happen. And it once again translates to Peter being kind of like a goofball or like, you know, just like nerfed in this game. And to kind of wrap up my points here, Peter takes a lot of hits in this game, a lot. Now, like I said, I know Peter or Spider-Man gets beat up a lot, but they kind of went overboard in this game. I don't know if they did this so it makes the symbiote stand out more as being this OP thing he gets, but even with the symbiote, he takes a lot of hits. It just gets to the point that every time I think about him in this game, he's a guy that got his ass kicked a lot, which is different from my perception of him in the first game where he felt more like an experienced Spider-Man. It's not even about his wins and losses in his boss fights in the game. I saw people talk about that. I don't even care about that. He won his boss fights. It's whatever. It's just narratively speaking and the way they portrayed Peter in this game. There were a lot of small specific situations and details to me that added up to the point where it was a glaring issue that made me dislike aspects of the story. And I touched on it a bit, but I want to discuss how these details can be seen as small and insignificant, but to me it matters because details to me matter a lot. Showing Spider-Man in situations he should easily get out of, or having one of his biggest powers, aka Spider Sense, only be used because it has to be, makes the character feel a little less grounded to what we understand him as. And I get it, it's hard to make the Spider Sense incorporated when you're trying to tell a more ominous story where you want some more intense or ominous scenes to be included, like Lizard sneaking up on Spider-Man, but it just doesn't make sense into the whole grand scheme of it all. And I feel like I'm in a minority group here. There's a lot of people that don't even think twice about these kind of things I'm talking about when they're playing the game. Like for a lot of people, it really doesn't matter, which is completely fine, good for them. But for a superhero fanatic like myself who loves studying and understanding the details and characteristics of these new incarnations of my favorite superheroes, I just happen to notice these kind of things. This isn't even the first time we've seen this either. In Spider-Man Miles Morales, him losing to Rhino there, straight up getting knocked out, just doesn't make sense. He beats Rhino and Scorpion both at once in the first game, and loses to Rhino here seemingly very easily. It's more of a power scaling thing. If you ever seen like an anime or something, that word gets passed around there a lot. Here though, it's just inconsistent. If Peter can beat Rhino and Scorpion in the first game, then logically, he should beat Rhino by himself here. Is there a possibility Rhino can still beat him? Sure, but it's very unlikely given the past game and the established notion of him being an experienced Spider-Man for nearly a decade. This particular situation does seem like more of a plot thing to show off Miles since it was his game. I just don't like how it's at the expense of Peter looking weak. I feel the situation can be written to be a little better. Like, if you need Peter out of the picture, maybe have him save civilians so he's distracted while Miles fights Rhino? I don't know, but you see my point here. And listen, I could go on forever and talk about how Peter getting struck by lightning like 2 or 3 times because Sandman was wild, or this or that, but you get my point. I felt like Peter was just nerfed in this game overall. Weaker than he should be. Weaker than he was made out to be from the first game. Was it to make Miles the symbiote stand out more? Possibly. I don't know, and I don't really care about the reasoning for why they did it. They just should have never done it. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm being crazy here, if I make any sense at all, because I am genuinely curious. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe if you want, I guess, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay safe, and peace.